What is up, people? This is Donnie from Think, Make, Repeat, and today I want to talk about the Wonderlands Liquid Cooling. These are all of the parts, and I'll go over them quickly, and then we will start to assemble. This is what I call it, I think, the cold can. This has that texture on it. I know it's hard to see because it's black, but it does have a texture on it. Like I said, I used Idea Maker to put the texture on it, so if you're a 3D printer person and you're ever trying to put texture on a model, it's a very easy way to do it. Here is what that cold can goes into. This is, I don't know, I can't remember what this is called, but the one thing that this has is, you can see here, there's a small end, there's a big end, the small end goes in there, and then there's a bunch of holes here. You'll see one spot that's flat. The flat spot is actually what goes on this bottom part, because you can't put one of these, there's like these little nubs that go in there, and they'll fit into these holes, and you'll see there's an indentation on one side and the other side's flat. The flat side goes in there. You glue those in, and then this can just rest on there, because obviously there's no point in having one there because it would collide with that part. So there's also a hole in here, by the way. So during my testing, I did have this, it is kind of like out there on the back of the gun, and it had the tendency to break. So what I did was I put I think it's about a 5 or 6 millimeter hole in here. There's just a little steel bar you can get from Home Depot. I think it's about 5 millimeters, and you can shove that in there, which will then give it the stability it needs. You can just cut it with a hacksaw or something like that. The grip actually has to come in two parts because of this. This is the motor side. This side has a little bit of variation to where there's a hole right here, and that hole is where this motor section will fit into. This side is just straightforward. It's just this piece. I just left this in there, but there's pegs that go in the middle, so that way you can lock it together. And this is the back grip, same thing. You got some pegs here, pegs here, pegs here. It goes together. This will go onto the front like you see there. Blades are pretty simple. They just come in one part. I just print them down like that, and then you'll just have support material here. It comes with pegs. Now the pegs are specific for the blades because this is pretty thin and it goes into there. I just didn't use the same ones as here. I could modify that. I might, I don't know. We'll figure out, and if so, I'll put something in there saying, you know, it'll be on the instructions being like all the there's 16 pegs or something. I don't know how many there are right now. Otherwise, it'll list there's 4 separate pegs. And then this is the part that goes into that. You'll see there's a notch there. That's because one of the things actually goes through that. But this will go into the barrel and also into the body, and that's what gives it the structure that it needs. These are just normal pegs. They're the longer body pegs is what I call them. You've got a trigger. That trigger just slots. There's a little indentation right there. It just slots into that guy. Put that in there in a minute. Then you have the main body. This is the top of that main body. And like I said, these are all the motor parts. The barrel, pretty simple, 3 parts. You got big pegs that go in, and then this one has another body peg that goes in there to lock it into the main body, which is right there. I know this is super tough to see because it's small, but there's this thing called the ignition that goes on this side right here. You'll see there's a hole there for a peg. It's 3 parts. It's the peg, which is stuck in here. It's just a circle. Then you actually have the part that the key goes in. Just pop that key in there, and then this is the ignition. Also with this, sorry I missed this, with the blades, there's these rings. They have a hole in them. You'll see the 3 holes down here. You can print as many as you want, but you just kind of gotta flex it up a little bit to get it in there, and then it will pop through that hole, and then you can have the rings that are for the blade. This is a part that I don't even know what I call it right now, but it goes on this main body here. I just separate it because it's much easier to print this like this and not have support material everywhere that you're gonna have to clean. So I always try to break these up, and I'm thinking about it as I'm modeling it, how I'm going to break it up so it's easier to print. Then we have the pipes. The pipes are a series of little pipes, and there's like a clamp. There's a part here, and that all goes up on this main body right above this part. Again, for the blade, or not for the blades, for the barrel here, you've got 3 different sizes of spikes. Again, it's black. Sorry, it's a little hard to see, but this is the biggest spike, and you'll see it all goes on this area. You see all these little dots around here. These are the holes, really. This is the main hole for this guy, but then in these holes is where you put all those spikes. So like this one would go in there, and then you can do those. I would do that last, and I would be careful. Make sure you have enough room when you're putting in there, because when some of these small ones, they're very, very tiny. They're that small. And then just so you can see the mediums, and then the large, like that. Those are the sizes. The small one's very tiny, and if you start whacking that with a little mallet, it could muck it up. But again, this is a COV gun, and it's a Borderlands gun, so if you muck something up, that's totally fine. You can always just take super glue and put a little bit of super glue on there and then hit it with some accelerator and then massage it into the shape, and then you'll have a nice hard surface that you could paint over and you would never even notice. And then there's, I think, 2 more things that we have here, which this little part, I can't remember what I call it, the scope or something. There's a flat part right here that has a little nub. This has a little hole. It will go on just like that. There's also these hexagon holes here that I have little hexagons that go into those holes, and you can just put some glue on there and hammer that in. And then I have this little part here. It's like an octagon, and that actually goes, there's a little indentation on, this is the front of the grips, and in between these areas where it goes like this, like that, there's a little hole that just slides into that hole. It's just a little decoration thing. It looks like a nut or something like that. So let's go ahead and start putting this together. We'll start with the grip, because this was actually the hardest part for me to take apart. Like I said, I've had this modeled for years now, and I just haven't done anything with it. So the back grip put together. Now we have the front grip. You can see the motor. This is them facing one another. There's some pegs. I already have a peg in there, so I'm just going to use it. And then just line it up. So here, these 2 parts just go together, and there you go. And now, if we wanted to, it's going to be impossible to see, but maybe right here, you'll see there's that little hole there. That's where this little hexagon piece goes. Like I said, I'd put that in last, but there's just a little hole, and it would just pop into that area. We'll just leave it out though. So again, put this together. Yeah, let's wait on that part. So now, let's put together the barrel. See if I can remember all these parts. So the barrel, one thing you want to make sure you get right is, and I've gotten it wrong, is there's this big hole in the middle piece. This big hole goes with this. It needs to be glued the proper way. And then this part, I don't know, it's got this like little turbo engine part, and the part with the hexagons like I was talking about up here, that goes on top. So you can just take that big peg. This is the big peg for the barrels, and just put that together. And now I know it's properly aligned. We don't need that on there. This is the barrel front. I mean, you can really put this one any way you want. It doesn't matter. And there you go. So this is the barrel part. As you can see, there's already a peg stuck in there. It's just a normal body peg. And then we would take this like that. As that's put together, now you need to take this blade part, and that's where it has the notch in it. The notch goes back like this. Bunch of peg holes in here. Alright, put one in there. I don't really need to, but we'll do it for stability. And before I even put this in, there's that big cavity for this part. I'm just gonna pop this in. Just goes in just like that. Then you have your holes down here, which line up with these holes. Let's see, try to point it towards you. You see the big square holes in the front. Just make sure I get the lined up properly. And there you go. This is the top piece. You can see that's where the hole is for the liquid pipes. You can just pop that on there just like that. And then that gives you the hole for that liquid pipe. We'll put that on in a minute. We'll start with this part. So this is the motor. Comes in a few parts. The motor has an indentation on this top. This part, this will be the top. You've got your chain. It's got a couple holes in the back. You've got this part, and it has a little peg. I hope you can see that sticking up. It's just, this is the only peg like that. It's just a very small peg. You've got this part that's the top of the motor, and then you have this fused part, which is the part that goes into this section. So actually, let's put the motor in first because it's kind of tight. There we go. The motor is in. That whole part is up. There's some little holes in this portion on the top of the the main body that goes like that. And there you go. You can see how it just fits into that hole perfectly. And there you go. You got some structure. Now we'll put this part back on. You've got this part, which is the last fused part. It has this big, solid, chunky peg, and then there is a hole down here in this motor. So you'll just plop that in there, and then that is the mount. And then you'll see there's a circle here and a circle here. That is where the chain goes. There's two different size circles, and the bigger one goes on the top and the smaller one on the bottom. Just line it up and press it in. Also, oh yeah, I forgot this. So this is the trigger. Trigger just slots it in this area down here. So you can just, there's nothing special about it. It just plops in. You could paint it first and put it in later like this, or you could just, when you put it together, put it in. Either one should work. There's a big hole here, and that's where this, I don't know, this, whatever this piece would be called, slots in. Let's see. This has, and we'll figure this out on the way because I haven't put this together in 2 years or whatever, whenever Wonderlands came out. So this little section, there's a kink and a kink down just on that pipe, and then this one has a clasp on it that goes down. This one will go in here, but I'm pretty sure you need to do it in a certain order. So let's try the long piece is this way, and like I said, there will be graphics with this where you'll be able to see exactly how it goes and just mimic that. Alright, so that is how it goes. The long piece was towards this clasp, the shorter piece was towards this. This one with the built-in clasp just goes into that hole. Then we have two more pieces, so there's this clasp and the long pipe. So put it in, put it into that hole backwards. I'm putting backwards pressure on it, and then just pop that in there. So that was actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Hole here, hole here, hole here. 3 holes, and there's 3 pegs here. This one kind of moves. So just to line them up. The top one, this top one, smallest one's going to go in last. There you go. And then this, like I said, this is easy to assemble. Just make sure this part that has no holes is facing down. It goes in. Like I said, I would put that bar in there because, like I said, if you wind up hitting this, it's just a lever that it will break. Last thing is like the finishing touches like this. Put this up here, and then I'll just glue that on. It's not going to stay right now, it's a little tight. And then let's do the last actual piece I can think of, which is the ignition for the motors. There's a hole right here on the left side as it points away from me. Like I said, this is 2 pieces. One's a peg, it's already in there, I actually can't get it out, but there's a peg and this circle, and then you have the key. It's very simple, key just slots in, and then this just slots in there. And like I said, I would paint that separate and then glue it and put it in. It's just easier to do that most of the time. Your hexagons go right there. And again, that's where all your spikes go. And I think that is it. That's the basic assembly of the Wonderlands Liquid Cooling, or like I said, if you're more of a Borderlands fan, you could use this for basically any of the Borderlands COV pistols. It is quite big. As you can see, it's more of the size of a SMG that I would make. It's just the way it works out with being able to wrap your hand around this comfortably. If you have any comments, just feel free to reach out. I'd love to know if you do print one and how it turns out. I love seeing the photos of these things when people put their creativity to it, and I get to see them put it together. And then if you have any questions about anything when it comes to painting, put it together, whatever it is, just feel free to reach out. All right, my name is Donnie. Think, make, repeat. Bye.